I hope this is working. I think we're good to go. I think we've come with various technical difficulties. I hope you have too. And I hope we'll be able to communicate. What we're going to do now is conduct a little thought experiment, perhaps a reality experience. And the only reason you're looking at this is because you found the second video perhaps interesting, and you want to check out how genuine I am. It's now Wednesday, 9 o'clock. I woke up 7:30 with this thought. I've written it up. I'm now explaining it. 4th of August, 2010. Don't have much of an introduction you actually need here, but the next, first time I suppose I'm going to explain this to a group. It's going to be at 15 minutes. Inspiration, Brixton in London. And the only reason you're looking at this is to kind of check out how genuine I am. Here I am, bedroom, and I have very little, and it's just a thought. I've been a math teacher, and the thought experiment is going to be to do with maths, and dependent on your awareness and your response to your mind, we will move on to the reality experience and maybe do something in reality to turn, I suppose, our awareness into action. Okay, and I get this kind of way of thinking, I suppose, is supplied by Leon, who encouraged me to, well, he invented, I suppose, applied XQ. That is to turn, I don't know, a thought experiment into something that might be useful. So, I'm going to listen to some music, and if I overcome various technical difficulties, so will you. So, press and play. Nope. Okay, let's try that again. Press and play. This music is really good with stereo. It does something hemispheres in your brain. So, thought experiment. What do you see? I'll be doing a slightly different thought experiment with a bunch of people in a week's time, and I'll be using dots and things. And I shall be listing what people see. We get different responses. In this case, it's quite minimal. Chances are you're going to be looking at 3, 2, or you're going to be looking at 5. Now, the minimal way to describe that is 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. Not too unsurprising. The second thought experiment is, where is the action in that statement? 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. Now, a lot of people, when they're thinking about that, think it's in the plus, because they're thinking 2 things plus 3 things equals 5 things. And this is quite understandable, since as children that's what happens, we get taught this stuff. However, an alternative way of thinking about it is either we can look at a group of 2 and a group of 3, or we can look at a group of 5. So therefore the action is actually in the equal sign. If we think about it this way, there is no actual physical addition of anything. What we're actually doing is we're doing a phase change in our mind, and therefore 2 plus 3 is equal to 5 is not a description of what we're doing to physical objects, which is the way we normally think about addition. What we do is we think about it as being our mind's perception of looking at the same thing in 2 different ways. For your information, this is related to Theory of Classes by Russell at the beginning of the 20th century, actually with language. So in mathematics, primary school or secondary school, we get taught you can't add 2 bananas, 3 apples. You just can't do it. But you can. If you have 2 bananas, 3 apples in a bowl, you could say there are 5 pieces of fruit. So with categories. So 2 plus 3 is equal to 5 could be a category of language thing, which means that we might have a basis to comprehend mathematics, simple addition, as a minimal language. This indicates to me a subjective side to mathematics. I call this XQ. It's where we contemplate the subjective processes that are involved when we are simply doing mathematics, even something as simple as addition. Well, what happens if we were thinking about counting? What's the subjective side of thinking about counting? Because normally, obviously, we think about counting things. But if we were not actually counting things, like sheep or stones or fingers or whatever it was, if we weren't counting things, what are we actually doing for it to work, for it to have any meaning to us as human beings? Well, think about that one. And I'd like to throw in an anecdote. I was tutoring Yvonne, she's the second adult that I tutored, and with great pleasure. Because most of the time I've been teaching kids most of my life, and can't really get a huge amount of kind of self-reflection. You just get an immediate response. So it's been a real pleasure to engage the minds of adults as they contemplate thinking about such simple things like arithmetic, when the last time they thought about this, if they've kind of thought about it at all, was when they were at primary school. So she was telling me about her grandson, who is 2 years old, and he is capable of counting up in 2s. She thought this was quite funny. 2, going 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on. And he was nervous at first when she would put him on the spot saying you can count up in 2s, but now he can actually do it, he can count up in 2s. And then what they thought they'd do is they try and get the kids to learn how to count things. 1, 2, 3 objects. Can't do it. Okay. So you think, that's natural, isn't it? Because, if you can count up in 2s, then surely you can count single things. So I said, no, because it depends on what it is that he's counting. If he's not counting things, and I think this indicates that he's not counting things. So I asked him about how do you learn this? And it seems, and she remembered, that it was through walking upstairs and counting up the stairs. 2s, why 2s? And I think what was happening is he was counting every second step. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. So he's counting kind of one side of the cycle. He's counting maybe his knee. But of course he wasn't counting his knee because his knee is just his knee. He was counting... I don't want to tell you the answer. But he wasn't counting a thing. So, another way to think about this is music. What if you're going to be counting? Are we counting notes? But notes are not things. Counting sounds. In what medium are we counting? That is another side to mathematics. Kind of groovy side. I've spent long enough to just explain the XQ, and I would like to take the next few minutes to explain the reality experiment. Because it comes out of this response. So what? Even if this is an alternative way of looking at mathematics, simple as arithmetic. So what? Leon, person I met recently, who's been quite influential in my thinking, would ask the question quite regularly, so what? Not because he didn't care, but because he genuinely did care, and he was trying to elicit why should anybody bother? Now, despite the fact that I've actually taught mathematics for like 10 years, and we know that mathematics is kind of like so important in society, And we know that education is, for some reason or other, we kind of missed the point. So even if this is the case, that we have an alternative way of thinking about mathematics, so what? The answer is, let's turn this thought experiment into a reality experience and see where we go from there.